step, not only for our country, but for Europe's continued unity and integration. In a world of economic fragmentation, rapid technological change, and shifting power balances, the euro remains not only a monetary instrument, but a symbol of unity and resilience. However, Europe must ensure that the euro continues to be both, as you were saying, a shield in times of uncertainty and a driver of growth and strategic sovereignty. But as Prime Minister said, many citizens in Bulgaria are worried about losing economic and monetary control, about sovereignty. There are genuine concerns about the timing of the decision. Is now the right time for Bulgaria to join the Eurozone, and how it will affect prices, overall economic stability? And our question is, in what concrete ways the membership in the Eurozone will protect Bulgarian households and businesses, and how we can ensure it translates into higher living standards and tangible benefits for them. It is my pleasure to give you the floor for the keynote.
Merci, merci. Prime Minister Gilles Yaskov and members of your government, Madam Minister, dear Mrs. Georgieva, my dear friend Kristalina, dear Commissioner Dombrovskis, my friend Valdis, and all members of your team, and a special recognition for my colleague and soon to be sitting at the same table of the Governing Council, Dimitri Radev, Governor of the National Central Bank of Bulgaria, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, friends, and I suppose I haven't forgotten anyone by just saying friends. Before we look into the future, and I try to address some of your questions, I would like to go back into the past. I vividly remember any 1st of January in my life because I was born on January the 1st. But the one I vividly remember is January the 1st, when the initial members of the euro area decided to adopt one single currency, the euro. France gave up the franc, Germany gave up the Deutschmarks, and all the other members at the time, 11 of them, gave up their currency. And I vividly remember that day because, of course, I celebrated my birthday. But at 5 minutes past midnight, with all my friends, we went to the ATM machine to see if it worked. And all of us assumed that it would not work. So we pressed our keys, and here came the euros. I'm not telling you that in the hope that you will celebrate my birthday, but I just want you to know that you are not the only one. It all happened to us at the time when we joined the euro. The 11 initial members and every country that joined along the way, we had the same trepidation, the same anxiety, and we thought it's not going to work. We thought we are losing our sovereignty. We thought it's going to be more expensive. All of us, okay? The second memory that I would like to bring to you at this point in time, and I was listening to you carefully, Mr. Prime Minister. We are not at destination, and you will not be at destination on January 1st. But Bulgaria has come a long way. And I have vivid memories, together with Valdis, because the two of us were together, of all those meetings that we had with you, Minister Petkova, but with all your predecessors as well, because a lot of work has been done. A lot of reforms have been conducted. A lot of laws have been passed so that all the criterias, all the expectations that are put upon any member joining the euro were hard work and was eventually a success. So it's a huge, big step that you are reaching, but it's the beginning of a journey. It's not destination. And my friend Kristalina Georgieva put it out very clearly in terms of continuing the reforms and continuing this convergence towards each other that I'm sure you will take to heart to conduct. So, as I said, January 1st, 2026, my heart will beat for you, Bulgaria, as I celebrate my 70th birthday. It will be a special moment, I can assure you. And I might actually bring some good Bulgarian wine to celebrate that day, because that's the thing you normally do on a birthday. So, let me just address a couple of things. I would like to outline for you what I see as the clear benefits of joining the euro. I would identify two key benefits, and I'm sure you can think of others. The first one is prosperity. The second one is security. So what do I mean by prosperity? Over the past decade, just the past decade, GDP per capita in Bulgaria has risen from 1/3 of the average of the euro area to almost 2/3 today. As recommended by Kristalina, there's 1/3 to go, and maybe that's the goal to actually set your eyes on for the continuation of the journey. And the success that you have already achieved has been built on deep integration within the European economy, and even more so into the euro area. If I am to believe the records of Eurostat and other European institutions, as well as my own, 65% of the exports from Bulgaria go to the European Union, and 45% of them go to the euro area. You currently, thanks to the IMF at the time, have a currency board, and as a result, you have enjoyed much of the exchange rate stability that euro membership provides. But adopting the euro will take this integration one step further by removing the last currency barrier within the single market. For Bulgarian firms, whether they're large corporates or whether they're SMEs, that means zero conversion costs when exporting to their primary European customers. SMEs will save around 1 billion leva every year in conversion costs alone. Take the car industry in Bulgaria. Bulgaria supplies around 80% of electronic components used in European vehicles. Instead of spending time and money on currency conversion, these companies can reinvest those savings into growth and development. The euro adoption will also open the door wider to European capital markets. By that time, we will not have concluded capital market union yet, but as Kristalina advocated, bring your voice to the table in order to make sure that that capital market union actually happens in the not too distant future, and as advocated by the European Commission and the European Council by 2028. That would mean lower funding costs, and it would provide a more stable basis for long-term investment. Now, these benefits are already visible in the improved credit ratings of Bulgaria and narrower sovereign spreads, which will translate into lower borrowing costs for all those who borrow, households and corporates. So with these foundations, Bulgarian firms can continue to invest, they can innovate, and they can move up the value chain as they have done so impressively already. So as I said, the journey continues. Now the second benefit, so the first one was prosperity. The second one is security. We are living in a much more volatile world, a much more fragmented world, with constant external shocks. For a small and open economy, any small and open economy, but Bulgaria is one, where nearly 1 in 2 jobs depend on foreign demand, that exposure to external shocks can be particularly acute. The currency board has insulated Bulgaria by eliminating euro-lev fluctuation. While it is a strong shield, it is not the ultimate shield. The ultimate shield, and the safest one, is the institutional credibility of euro membership. It provides complete protection against exchange rate volatility with Bulgaria's main trading partners in Europe, and it protects Bulgarian firms from sharp currency swings that can erode competitiveness globally. So as part of a large currency area with much deeper financial markets, the euro is far less vulnerable to sudden shifts in global capital flows than smaller economies. Just to give you an idea and to put it in perspective, the turnover in US dollar euro market is around 20 times higher than in euro Swiss francs or euro Japanese yen markets. This scales provides lower volatility. Now, at the same time, because the euro, don't forget, is the second most important currency in the world after the dollar, the euro area pays for more than half of its imports in its own currency. That number is much higher in the case of Bulgaria. 83% of what you import into Bulgaria is invoiced in what will soon be your currency, in euro. Now, what that does is that it cushions households and businesses from rising import prices when exchange rates move. In addition, when global demand becomes less predictable, regional integration matters even more, and the single currency cements that integration. It prevents our internal markets from being weakened by competitive devaluation. Based on our research at the ECB, during the great financial crisis, the euro depreciated by around 20% against the US dollar. But if you look at what would have happened if we had not had the euro, some of the member states would have suffered a devaluation of their currency of 34%. That gives you the magnitude of the protection of that shield. And that variations could have threatened the cohesion that we have built. But thanks to the euro, Europe's single market remained solid and united. So I'm now going to address the two topics that I have mentioned at the opening of my remarks. The fear, the apprehension. What will happen? Why would we change? I'm signing the euro banknotes, by the way, so you will see my name on all those banknotes. Why would you go for this lady signing our banknotes? She doesn't even speak Bulgarian. Well, as I said, it's a universal fear. It's a universal concern. It is not specific to Bulgaria. We feared it, and we overcome the fear. So the first fear you have is losing sovereignty. National monetary policy will be subordinated to European decisions. We will lose control over our destiny. And that's understandable, particularly given the long history that you have and the attachment to your currency. But I would contend that joining the euro is not a loss of sovereignty, it's a gain. For decades now, Bulgaria has been operating under a currency board. And in practice, that has meant what? Importing into Bulgaria the monetary policy of larger economies, but without a seat at the table. That will now change. As of January 1st, I will have the pleasure of welcoming, with great fanfare and trumpeting, I hope, our new member, a governor from Bulgaria, Dimitri Radev, who will sit at the table with exactly the same voice, the same vote, and the same standing as any of the other 20 governors around the table. There's no weighted voting, single vote, single voice. And he will be listened to and address the point and the question by Kristalina. We don't do show of hands, but I go around the table to be certain that the views that we are taking is supported by a very broad majority in the room. So your governor's voice will actually matter and his views will be listened to and respected. So Bulgaria will not be following others. Bulgaria will help shape the decisions. And if you look at the Bulgarian economy, it is already deeply integrated into European supply chain. Its business cycle now moves closely in step with that of the euro area. When the euro area grows, Bulgaria grows. When it slows, Bulgaria slows. You want to be part of what will shape the decisions. The second worry that you will have is that it will lead to price increases. People in the trade, in the retail business, in the cafes, in the bistro, at the hairdresser will take advantage of that moment to increase prices. This is not ill-founded fears, because we have seen it happen. But because we have seen it happen, your government knows that something needs to be done to address those concerns. Typically, you have an increase because of the rounding up. You know, it's easier to round up than to round down. You typically have a rounding up of 0.2 to 0.4. Even at the height of inflation, Croatia, for instance, observed an increase of 0.4 because of the rounding up and the very high inflation environment. But that happens once, and then it's absorbed and it goes away. What needs to be done at that point is that authorities, locally, regionally, nationally, they need to make sure that the rule is respected, that the conversion rate that is agreed applies, strictly speaking, to the last cent, to the conversion of price in lev into the price in euro. You need to have, and I know that this is a decision that you have made, you need to have both prices flagged so that you can check that it's the right conversion, and this will take place until August 2026. So that gives you about 8 months to make sure that the baker, the cafe owner, the hairdresser, and everybody in the supply chain will actually respect this commitment of the strict conversion to the last cent. And you have to check. And associations, NGOs should be active in that respect. This has proven efficient. And typically you see a slight increase, as I said, from 0.2 to 0.4 because of the rounding up for about 6 months. And then it goes away. But, vigilance is necessary. And it's the responsibility not just of the authorities, it's everyone's responsibility. So those fears, loss of sovereignty, no, it will not be a constraint. It will actually enhance your voice in the monetary policy definition. Higher prices, no, you have to check, you have to verify, and the commitment is there. But let me mention the last risk that I see, and it coincides with the risk identified by Kristalina. The risk that we have observed in the past is that those countries that made a huge effort to reach the convergence criteria, to change the laws, to make sure that it aligns with the requirements, fatigue sets in. You don't want to do yet more reforms. And the tendency is to just step back and return to the old order or business as usual. That would be a real mistake. Because, and that is IMF research actually, which has demonstrated that. Those countries that have continued hard to integrate into the euro area have generally gained an additional 10% of wealth in the country compared to those that laid back, took it easy, and decided that fatigue reform was too much for them. So my encouragement to you is do not fall prey to that fatigue. Carry on, because the reward will be significant. You have delivered already a lot, impressive results. Lock that progress in and carry on, because that will be beneficial to the Bulgarian people. So let me now conclude. Vasil Levski, Bulgaria's most revered national hero, once said, and I translate because I don't speak Bulgarian, I apologize, The people's cause stands above all. The decision to adopt the euro embodies that cause. It strengthens Bulgaria's economic foundations, it builds resilience against shocks, and it increases Bulgaria's voice in euro area decisions, and therefore it supports its sovereignty. Given Bulgaria's long-standing currency peg, the cost of foregoing an independent monetary policy are minimal, while the gains are substantial. Smoother trade, lower financing cost, and more stable prices. These advantages can be particularly significant for the SMEs as they try to expand within a larger market. But gains are not automatic. With a transparent changeover and sustained reform momentum, you can turn convergence into lasting competitiveness that translates into higher living standard for all Bulgarians. So, I'm telling you, after all those many meetings, all those efforts, those steps forward, we put our trust in you. You put our trust in us. We will not let you down. Please don't let us down either. And let's carry that journey together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madame Lagarde, for your inspiring reflections and addressing the concerns that many citizens have. Уважаеми дами и господа,
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express our sincerest of gratitude to our esteemed guests, Prime Minister, Madam Kristalina Georgieva, Madam Christine Lagarde, for the shared vision, for the perspectives they outlined, for the new opportunities, the challenges and risks, and above all, for the commitment and support in